Hello, everybody. Welcome to this latest edition of the Africa Football Showdown. Yes, the action is well underway at the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations taking place in Ivory Coast in West Africa. We are now well into the second round of group games in that competition. We'll bring you all the results in a moment, but first, let me just introduce my cast list. Dadzie, he's not going to be, or maybe he's not going to be talking too much in the early stages of this podcast, simply because he's still watching that Ghana-Egypt game. Daniel, how's it going?
Bro, it's looking it's edgy. I can say better in 2 minutes when the 90 minutes are up and the game is over. But it's been a great game so far.
That's the football fans' mantra. And my name is Peter Okowche, and thank you as ever to the band FRA for the vibe on this program. Now, if you hear some strange noises in the background, that will be Daniel Dadzie, because like I said, he's still trying to finish off that game between Ghana, the Black Stars, his beloved Black Stars, and the Pharaohs of Egypt. So, in part because Daniel is not going to be with us in this first part of the program, let me bring in another guest, a very, very good friend of mine, Tunisia's own Firas El Echi. He joins us by way of Paris, France. Great to see you again, my brother. How are you?
You too, Peter. It's been a long time. I'm very happy to be on this show, and I'm very happy to be with you guys. And very good day for AFCON fans. A lot of good football, and happy to be talking about it.
You see, that's the great thing, isn't it? The football in the last 2 days has just been great. You know, it seems as if the teams are pulling together and are blending better, and the quality of the matches is getting better. I mean, we're going to start talking about that. So the Super Eagles have redeemed themselves, but, you know, for the host, I mean, we saw that sea of fans in orange marching towards the stadium. I mean, they must have left terribly disappointed. I looked at the statistics after that match, you know, I mean, Ivory Coast dominated possession. They had more shots at goal. They had more shots on target. Nigeria had only one shot on target, which was the penalty. But do you think overall the best team won?
Absolutely, because a football game is like a chess game. There are different moments of the game where even if you're not dominating, even if you don't have the possession, that's part of your tactics. That's part of how you're bringing the other team in. You know, it was like a Muhammad Ali, fight. That's how I felt with the Nigerians. They were very intelligent in managing different stages of the game. One big factor that I'm actually enjoying watching throughout this AFCON is how they manage the humidity, how they manage the weather. That's a huge factor that we as viewers sitting in our, benches and enjoying from our own homes, we don't get a sense of what's going on there. The Nigerians today were brilliant. However, Ivory Coast, they gave it all in the beginning, and they lacked that sense of being lethal in the final third. And, as the game went on, they were getting exhausted and they were losing stamina. And Nigeria kept on, just lying on the ropes again, like Muhammad Ali, waiting for that right moment. But then you've got 3 counterattacks that could have ended in the nets. Have Nigeria been more lethal and more efficient when it comes to their counterattacks? The score could have been a lot more. And in all fairness, Ivory Coast gave it all. They just lack that final edge in the final third. This is nothing to worry about. They didn't lose to any team. They lost to one of Africa's veterans. I think they will be fine eventually. They will get out of this group and they will continue, through the first round or the round of 16. But then, they have to manage this issue with the final third. You have to be lethal. You get to that final box and you got to put it in the net. And this is where Ivory Coast have problems right now. They lack that Dadzie Drogba. It's not there.
Very fantastic analysis there from Firas El Echi. By the way, he's a journalist, an author, and not just a sports aficionado. Wears a lot of hats, that man. And, we're going to hear quite a bit from him here on the program. Before we go any further, I just want to give a big shout out to some of our partners around the African continent and here in the UK. If you're listening on Breeze FM in Zambia. I was on that yesterday. Brilliant time I had. Radio Hot Cocoa in Bamenda, Cameroon.
Come
Gompa in
on.
Liberia. Capital in Kenya and Malawi. City and Joy in Ghana. And The Beat in sunny Harlesden here in London. It's not that sunny. It's pretty cold, but we like to think it's sunny Harlesden. And then, of course, Rhythm in Nigeria, my old stomping ground. Thank you very much for listening to us on those FM stations and keep on supporting us. The show you can find on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever it is that you get your podcast. Just search for the Africa Football Showdown. Just don't miss it. Let's go back to Daniel. Is the game over yet?
We're nearly there. Yeah, I think
Oh, the
it
game's
just
over.
wrapped up.
What's the score?
It just wrapped up. It wrapped up as a 2-2 draw. And I must say, to be very fair, it reflects the game that we watched. The first half went to Ghana, second half went to Egypt. It's just disappointing looking at how both goals from Egypt came in because both were basically mistakes. First from a striker, Inaki Williams, who was caught slipping, and
That was a
then
very poor back pass, wasn't it?
exactly, and then another forward-facing player, Osman Bukhari, who, for the life of me, I don't understand why he did not balloon that shot when he won possession from, I think it was Mustafa that he won possession from. Yeah, so that's where we are currently. I must
You
say,
sound disappointed, so I'm not going to ask you if whether or not you're happy with that result. I mean, but before the game, would you have taken a draw against Egypt?
I would definitely have taken a draw against Egypt. They played better than Cape Verde. They came out the way they should have. Mohamed Kudus showed that he was missing in the first game. Three changes were made coming into this game, and you could see immediately that Inaki and Kudus began making some sort of impact. Inaki not so much, unfortunately. I think he was played out a bit in front up there, but Kudus showing that individual brilliance. We attacked the ball from the very beginning, started getting chances from the very beginning. We were keeping a high line. We were winning the balls in the midfield. I feel like we lost concentration a bit at the beginning of the second half, and that's where it began unraveling for us because it never really came together after Egypt nearly scored, or I should say scored and had that goal disallowed at the very beginning of the second half. We never
I think
really
the
brought
biggest
it back
the
together.
bigger disappointment would be in the fact that 1-0 up, Ghana were very comfortable. I mean, Egypt had lost Salah at that point. Salah went off with a muscle injury, I think, just a minute and a half before Ghana scored that goal. Ghana looked pretty comfortable with it, but it just goes to show what Mimi said last week when she was talking to us about the Egypt team and said they were one of the most balanced sides on the continent. So it's not just Mohamed Salah.
The last time we won against Egypt was 2013. In the past 3 games before this one, we lost 1 and drew 2. So we lost 2 and drew 1. So it was always going to be a tough match. Egypt is one of the tournament favorites. I feel like if we had played like this against Cape Verde, this would be a very good result. And we would have won Cape Verde. And yeah, and a draw against Egypt is great.
Listen,
but unfortunately,
Daniel, I just want you to try and brush off your disappointment and put on that great commentator voice of yours again, and just give us the rest of the scores from the matches since we were last on air. Go ahead.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Peter. So Algeria were held to a draw by Angola, 1-1 there. Burkina Faso began quite well against Mauritania, 1-0 win. Tunisia lost against Namibia. One of the big surprises. Tunisia is 87 places ahead of Namibia in the world ranking. And they lost that game. So it's quite the big one. Mali winning 2-0 against South Africa. Not too many surprises there. Morocco also bringing a thunderous result past Tanzania, winning 3-0 there. Not too many surprises there as well. And DR Congo held to a draw by Zambia, 1-1. So that was earlier Today began with Equatorial Guinea winning 4-2 against Guinea-Bissau. First hat-trick at an AFCON since 2008. Emilio Nsue, the captain, the 34-year-old captain, coming to the party really well. Ivory Coast losing 0-1 to Nigeria. We've talked about that. And Egypt nailing my misery, drawing with Ghana 2-2.
Okay. I mean, Firas, I just want to come back to you now and look at some of the North African teams. If you include the 2-2 draw between Egypt and Ghana, it's been a kind of mixed tournament so far for the North African teams, especially when you add into the mix that Namibia beat.
So, yeah, when it comes to North African teams, particularly in this tournament, I don't have high hopes except for Morocco. Let's put Morocco somewhere there, and we'll get back to that. When it comes to Egypt today, there were some really good signs in the second half once Mo Salah got injured. Surprisingly, I started seeing this Abu Trika team, the glimpses of that team that won 3 consecutive AFCONs. There's this confidence and this collectiveness and this awareness that the team is coming together. And you know what? We're the 7-time champions. You know, we will come here and we will win and we will conquer. So that sense of collectiveness was beautiful to watch, and it's glimpses of that Egypt that at one point dominated Africa. So that gives me hope that they might actually go further than we might think. Tunisia, however, how do I begin with the problems there? This is not one of the strongest versions. It is a team that can always, surprise you. It is a team that can always shuffle your cards. One time you got Nigeria, the big favorite, and Tunisia just beats them and they're out. It is a team that can always shuffle the cards of the tournaments. But now with Yassine Khenaissi getting injured, Jouini replacing him, the lack of options on actually all 3 lines, we still have Youssef Lemsakni as our best player. It's surprising that 13 years later, we can't come up with a new star or a new generation. I heard Kadri, the coach, coming up with a statement after the game that was so upsetting for Tunisian media. He said, you know what? You know who else lost the first game and then went on and won the tournament? Argentina in the World Cup. The only difference is you don't have Lionel Messi and you don't have the Argentinian squad. So for Tunisia, it's actually chaotic, and I'm very worried about the game against Mali because there is a grudge there, and Mali is looking very good, and there is a sense of we're gonna avenge our World Cup qualifiers.
When you talk about that game against Mali, Tunisia have played Mali 3 times in the Africa Cup of Nations, drawn 1, lost 2.
Yes.
So it's not a good record against the Malians. But did you see anything at all? I mean, we saw a very strong Mali side as well. Did you see anything in this Tunisian performance that might say they can change things around?
I would love to come up with something, but I have none. I'm sorry. So I'm actually worried because, like I said, and in the city or the town where Tunisia is actually playing now, it's near the Malian borders, and Mali is gonna play at home. We're expecting 12,000 Malian fans, and it's gonna be one of the toughest games of the tournament. If Tunisia comes out with a surprise, a victory, or even a good draw, I'll be very happy. Algeria is also a team that's not living through their best moments. I think the best is behind them. I thought they would come and seek redemption and try to, get us to forget what happened in the World Cup and the last AFCON. But yeah, Belmadi seems to be struggling, and the team seems to be not finding its way or a way to reinvent itself. Morocco, however, let's just get Morocco back from that place. I think this team can even play in the Euro. Morocco is achieving something that African teams across the continent are struggling with. See, we're in this era where dual citizens and those who are talented and are playing in Europe, they're not coming back. Gone are the days where Didier Drogba is at his peak in Chelsea and he comes and plays for Ivory Coast. And gone are the days where Samuel Eto'o is one of the best players in the world and he plays for Cameroon. Now many dual citizens are choosing not to come back and seek a chance to play with Germany or France or whatever. However, Morocco is succeeding big time at bringing back its talent that's succeeding in Europe, because a player like Ziyech, who's a dual national at his peak, he could have played for the Netherlands easily. Hakimi can play for Spain, but Morocco is providing all these advantages to bring back whatever talent it exports to Europe. So this is where they're succeeding, and this is why I think they're in their own class. And for a generation that reached a historic semifinal in the World Cup, they should win this one.
Listen, Firas, I'm not going to keep you much longer. Great analysis from you. But before I do let you go, I'm going to put you on the hot spot. We're putting all our guests on that same hot spot. 2 questions for you.
Go ahead. Shoot.
Who do you think is going to win AFCON 2023, and who's going to win the Golden Boot?
Morocco, I think. If no surprises. And the Golden Boot, I don't want to predict, but if I have to, it will be someone playing for Morocco, because they have the system to get quite often to score more than the others. So I would say Unahi, for example.
Despite the fact that we've seen our first hat trick since 2008. I mean, Emilio Nsue might.
Yeah, but how far are you going to go in the tournament? This is the question. So we'll see.
Thank you very, very much.
In the Syria as well. You're right.
Well, there you go. Listen, man, it's really, really good to have you on the program, Firas, and I'm sure we're going to have you at least one more time.
My pleasure. Each and every time. My pleasure.
It's just so on point. Thank you very much, Firas El Echi. He's a journalist, he's an author, and a football and sports aficionado, joining us there from Paris. All the best, man.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. You're still listening to the Africa Football Showdown. Daniel, can we just look? Can you just tell us what we can expect coming up in the next few days?
Very interesting lineup coming up, Peter. Cape Verde will face Mozambique. Senegal will play against Cameroon, Guinea against Gambia, Algeria and Burkina Faso will face off. Mauritania will also go up against Angola. Tunisia, Mali, we've already mentioned this match already. Morocco will go up against DRC. Zambia and Tanzania will face off. And South Africa will face Namibia.
Some intriguing clashes there that Daniel has just set out for us. We talked about Tunisia, Mali. I want us to talk about Algeria, Burkina Faso, because that is a big game. But let's just start with Senegal versus Cameroon. Senegal have been imperial in their first game. But I think if Cameroon want to do well against Senegal, it depends on which Onana turns up in goal. And Daniel, Algeria, Burkina Faso, Algeria have won this competition in the past. Burkina Faso have come close. What do you make of that clash?
I think that Algeria comes into the game with a bit of an advantage. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. And before their last draw against Angola, they had won all 4 games before that. Burkina Faso, on the other hand, in the past 5 games, they've also drawn 1 and they've lost 1. But they're coming into this with very good momentum from their last win against Mauritania. I feel like they're going into this fairly balanced because Burkina Faso seems to have a bit more momentum than Algeria, but Algeria also has a lot of class in there that we can't immediately rule out. Like Firas said, their AFCON form has been shaky in the past few tournaments, but this is still the group stages, and we often find the big teams fading out as they go later in the tournament. I can't stick my neck out for one at this point, but I will say that, yeah, it's definitely some good football we're going to see. They faced each other in 2021. They drew 2-2. In fact, twice in 2021 in the World Cup qualifiers. One was 2-2, one was 1-1. So they seem like, fairly balanced sides.
I also want to look at this Zambia-Tanzania clash. Not exactly regional derby, but close to it, if you like. Like I said, I was on Breeze FM in Zambia on Wednesday, and they were asking me for my prediction in the match between Zambia and the DRC. And I thought the DRC was going to win. And the guy said, the guy who was interviewing me said, come on, be nice. And I said, 1-1. All right. So I got that right. But Zambia do need to beat Tanzania in the next game. Don't you think so?
I'll head into. I'll jump into this one, Peter. Zambia needs that win. It looks like Zambia is also starting on a higher footing here. I mean, their head-to-head record against Tanzania is 2 wins in the last 2 meetings. Of course, they were a while back. They faced them in the COSAFA Cup in 2017 and the African Nations Championship in 2021. But again, Tanzania is on a 3-match losing streak. Zambia has drawn this game that we just talked about against DRC, and they also drew the match before that. But it looks like Zambia in particular can pull something against Tanzania if they get their act right.
Listen, I mean, it's an opportunity for Zambia to put a stop to that, that statistic, that astonishing statistic that they have not won a single game in this competition since they won the competition in 2012. I mean, it's mind-boggling, but hopefully for them, and I'm sure Tanzania will have something to say about that. Now, I just want to ask any of you, have you heard any juicy gossip coming from the Africa Cup of Nations so far?
It's been an interesting couple of days for the Black Stars. I'm pretty sure Chris Hughton will sleep well after that first half. I'm not totally satisfied with how he played the second half, but he was nearly attacked by a fan after that first game. It was quite dramatic. I know that Abdul Fattah, who plays for Leicester City, he often warms the bench for the Black Stars, to be fair. And so he decided not to answer the call-up for the Black Stars for AFCON, to concentrate on Leicester, and he got a red card. The next time he'll play for Leicester is on the 10th of February. So it's like, bro, if he had come, it would have made a difference. So it's
that was so funny, wasn't it? I mean, social media went on fire with that one. To our listeners, don't forget that you can, get us as a podcast or watch us on YouTube. Just go to wherever you download your podcast and type in the Africa Football Showdown. Now, Daniel, how about this for a statistic? I might have to eat humble pie later, but every single time Nigeria has beaten Ivory Coast at the Africa Cup of Nations, they've gone on to win it. I just thought I should let you know. But we will leave you.
Wait, are you calling it for Nigeria? Are you calling it?
I am not. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you what it is. I'm telling you what it is. We will leave you with the Super Eagles boss, Jose Peseiro, and the NFF president, Ibrahim Gusau, in the dressing room of the Super Eagles after they beat the hosts, Ivory Coast. Goodbye. You don't feel that vibe. I don't feel that vibe. Oh.